Well, at least I'm not dead. It could have been worse. This week has been particularly bad. Many people have speculated that the U.S. federal government has kidnapped me. I cannot confirm or deny this at this time. Many people have noticed that the canary at the bottom of the site footer is now gone. This is true. It is gone. Technically, I am allowed to talk about the subpoena, but I probably shouldn't. And my smartness decided, oh hey, I'll go ahead and I'll contact all these different organizations, right? I'll contact the EFF and I'll contact these different civil rights groups because I believe that the subpoena is overreaching for what it is. It only targets or concerns itself with a specific person, but what it's requesting is absurd in regard to that. And despite how staunch these organizations are, I think specifically because it's the Kiwi farms, they're not going to touch it. So I've been trying to get in touch with someone, and I only have a couple more days. It's due by the 31st. So if you are someone who is a federal lawyer and would like to look at a subpoena, which I think is historically significant, and how shitty it is, go ahead and email me. I encourage you. The subpoena comes right at the beginning of my travels out of Ukraine, because as someone very astutely pointed out on a video they made, I have indeed overstayed my visa in Ukraine. Now, Ukraine is interesting in that, in general, if you're an American citizen, you can overstay for as long as you want. But if you leave, you have to pay a fine. And the fine, in my instance, was something like 1,800 hryvnias, right? Which is like $100 tops. So it's like, whatever, I'll just pay the fee. And when I leave, that's the plan. Because I don't think you can pay it before you leave. You have to leave, and then you have to pay the fine. And the fine is nothing. $100 is less than the visa processing fees for any other country, basically. So why do that? Why not just overstay? And it worked out. I mean, I enjoyed my time there. But obviously, I think I had to go. So I did. And I booked for the 23rd. I booked a flight out on the 23rd at 2:30 a.m., right? So I say, that would suck ass having to wake. That's a red-eye flight. So I have to ship my boxes, my computer, and my monitors, because my precious monitors that I bought with Stream.me money that I had to steal from the hands of the SPCC. I had to physically assault him to get him to stop streaming long enough so I could win the $500 prize money for 2 weeks and go on to buy my precious monitors. So I'm definitely sending those out of the country with me, right? So for the day before the flight, I'm packing everything, and I realized I don't know how to deal with the post office here. I've received packages from like FedEx and stuff, and other postal services, but I have no idea how I would go to the post office to communicate to people effectively what I'm trying to do, the ridiculous feat that I'm trying to pull off. And literally, I had kept the boxes. I had kept the boxes for all my stuff, so the monitors were packed up nicely in their own boxes that they came in. My computer came from the U.S., and it was the old computer I had when I lived in the U.S., and it was basically a Home Depot box that had tons of bubble wrap in it. Well, the bubble wrap was gone, so I literally packed this box full of my dirty laundry and my computer tower, and I didn't have any packing supplies. I go to all the productives, I go to the post offices themselves. I'm thinking I need packaging tape, I need scissors. So here I am looking for this packaging supplies. Surprisingly, the post office does not have packaging supplies on sale. I don't understand how it's even possible. Surely there should be clear tape and some scissors available somewhere, but no, 4 different stores, no packaging supplies. So I email my landlord, and I tell my landlord, help me ship this box the day before I move. And since I'm cleaning up the day before the day I move, I said, I'm going to go through the night. I'll go through the night, and I'll ship the box. I'll get a little nap in. I'll go to the airport, and then I'll sleep on the plane. And then I'll arrive where I'm going early in the morning, and it'll be a nice flight. I'm an expert traveler. I've gone to like a dozen different countries. I fly at least once every year. I have gotten the process of using an aeroplane to go to a different country, down to a science. So this is my plan, right? And I get to the airport. I get there 3 hours early because I'm anticipating, based on every story I've read regarding dealing with the Ukrainian immigration control and the border, the passport controllers, is different. Everybody has a different experience going through the exit gate for the country. So I have no idea what to expect. I give myself plenty of time. I get there 3 hours early, and I give the taxi driver the last of my local currency. I still have American currency, but I give him the last of my local currency. And when I get there, I look for the check-in gate, and they're not checking in. I guess because it's too early. And then I check my phone, and the flight had been delayed 8 hours. I had never, ever seen a flight delayed for 8 hours. And I decide, in my infinite wisdom, that I am going to stay awake, or I'm going to stay at the airport, because I don't want to trade my currency in for my dollars in for more hryvnia and pay for a taxi to go to a hotel, because I've already gave my keys away. I stayed up the entire day lifting heavy boxes, going to the post office and mailing my stuff away. I'm thinking, I'm not gonna find a hotel now. I'm just gonna stick through it, and then I'll sleep nice and easy on the plane. So I do that, and the airport is completely dry, completely empty of people for the early AM. Then comes like 6 a.m. and suddenly there's hundreds of people in this lobby. And the funniest ones was the city I was living in is Odessa. Many people have already guessed what city I was living in, specifically because I kept mentioning Jews. And it's just, Odessa is the most Jewish city, probably, if not, it is definitely in Ukraine, but it's probably also the most Jewish city in any Slavic country altogether. It is extremely Jewish. There's a street in Odessa called Jew Street, and there's a synagogue on Jew Street in Odessa. That is the level of Jewish saturation in the city. And all the currency exchanges have Israeli shekels available at them, which is also something that's not common. When I said that, many people accurately guessed that I was in Odessa, because they don't do shekels anywhere else in Ukraine. It's just in Odessa. So I'm surrounded all of a sudden at this airport very early in the morning, waiting for my 8-hour flight delay by probably 100+ Orthodox Jews with like the big black hat on, the black coat, the curls around their ears and stuff. And it's funny because they're going to Tel Aviv. I think it's like the second week after Yom Kippur. They're probably visiting family and stuff. And then as I'm checking my phone, I notice that my flight is delayed again, a second time. So now it is no longer an 8-hour delay; it is a 10-hour delay. And I very stupidly decide I'm going to stay up for the remaining 2 hours. And as I'm waiting, it gets closer. It gets to about an hour away, and my flight is delayed again. My original flight time was supposed to be for 3:45 a.m. The final, what ends up being the final departure time for my plane, is 3 p.m. So I was awake all throughout the 21st. I stay through the night, packing and cleaning. On the 22nd, I am lifting heavy boxes and packing my stuff and finalizing my shipments. I sleep for maybe 4 hours to get a power nap in, and then I go to the airport, and I stay up the entire night, seeing departure delay after departure delay. And finally, at around 11 a.m., I fall asleep. I was at a bar stool, and there was a tall table in front of me. And I could tell by the way that these were set up, it was specifically so people could not fall asleep in them. You could fall asleep in the other benches that were lined up by the airport authority, but the benches, they were all taken. And it was only this bar that had available seats. So that's where I was. And it was the only, I swear to God, I looked up and down. It was a 3-story airport. There was one outlet charger available in the entire airport. Usually, as I've traveled a lot, I've noticed there are abundant outlets in every airport now. It is a convenience feature, and many times they'll just have a USB charger. There's a USB charger where you can just plug in the USB directly. It doesn't matter what the port is on your phone. You don't even have to have because people travel between countries that have different electrical standards. As long as you have the USB charger, you're fine. No such thing. This building was probably made in the early 1990s. I would say it's probably made by the Soviets. It's an extremely old building. Only socket was at this bar. So I was coveting it. I was hiding this socket from the world. I did not want anyone else to see the socket. I was using it throughout the night. It was mine. I was here first. I've been here for 12 hours. Nobody's taken my socket. So as I'm sitting there, I fall asleep. And I'm hanging my head. I'm sitting up against the wall, hanging my head on a bar table with my face like between my arms, staring at the ground. And somehow I sleep for 2 hours. I wake up 2 hours before the new departure date. There are at least 1,000 people in this lobby. It went from absolutely no one to a couple hundred people to 1,000 people. I have pictures of this, and I might post them. But to describe the airport, I don't have the words for it. Imagine an airport that doesn't have any barriers. It is an open floor plan. There are 8 different checkout counters. There's a bar in one corner, benches in the other, and then there's a gate to the security. But there are no barriers and no guides. There's not even like fucking tape on the floor to show people where they should line up. It is a mass of heaving, undulating, warm bodies, with many of them being Jewish, Orthodox Jews. And they are atomized. They know which line they're in. The lines kind of know where they're going, but the lines themselves are disorderly. They wrap in strange directions. And the biggest one is the one going to security. It is so long, it wraps around the corners of the room. It bends at some points, and it even intersects a different line perpendicular to each other. So it is a fucking nightmare. And here I am. I'm on 4 hours plus 2 because I fell asleep at the bars. I'm on 6 hours of sleep over 2 days, carrying probably about 50 pounds of electronics and clothing on me. I finally check in. They only open up check-ins about 2 hours before the new departure date. And I get in this fucking line. This line is so long for security, for the passport control, that there are people who are like holding up their phones above their heads and doing panorama shots. Like, to them, it's like funny. And I think it is because so many flights got delayed that night. From what I was told, it's due to the mist. There was a heavy, I thought it was because of strikes, because apparently a lot of airport companies are dealing with strikes right now. But apparently their official statement was that it's the mist. And when I say their official statement, I don't even remember where I'll explain later, but I have not received any email communication. There's no email communication about the departure delays at any time. There's no information at all from the actual airliner. If not for Google and open source like flight tracking programs on the net, I would have no idea what the status of my flight was at any time. It was so infuriating. But I get in the line, and it moves slowly. And when I get closer and closer to the checkout, to the security checkpoint, it gets slower. And I'm thinking, how the fuck are we slowing down? We're right there. And then I realize what it is. People are holding places for their families. So a guy will stay in line, and then as he gets to the airport, his family, 3 or 4, little Ivans and Borats or whatever, will climb up under the railing and join them and literally back the line up. It literally complicates the line in such a way that it creates negative progress. And it wasn't just like a couple people, it was a lot of them. And I finally get to I think it was an hour and 20 minutes that it took to get to the actual passport controller. And I'm a master at this. My bags are packed in such a way that I know what they're going to want and how to give it to them. So you get in there, I take my watch off. I carry an actual watch when I travel because I need to be able to see. Like if my phone dies because there's only one charger in the entire airport, it helps to have a watch. Take that off. Take my belt off. Pull out everything in my pockets. Throw them in a tray. Take my laptop bag. Take the laptop out of the laptop bag. Take the little pouch that I have for the AC adapter and charger cord and put that in the same tray because they will always, always, always demand I take that out to inspect it because it looks weird on the X-ray. And then I put the thing in a third box. I get through that in 15 seconds. And it's fine. No, there's no problems. I know what I'm doing. And I get dressed again because you take your belt off. Your pants start to sag. You feel like a rapper or some shit. And you're sitting there. I get all my stuff together, put my bag back together, and there's another line. I am 40 minutes away for this flight that departs at 3. And there's fucking 3 lines to 3 different gates. There is a line for the green zone, and there's a line for the red zone. And I'm thinking, I don't know what the fuck that means. What does this mean? I don't know. There's no additional information. It doesn't even have like additional information in Ukrainian or Russian underneath the signs. It just says the red zone in English and the green zone in English. I don't know what that means. So I get into the red zone because my visa's expired. That's my logic. My visa's expired. I am red because red is bad, green is good. I get into the red line and I wait 10 minutes. I get to the thing and I show her my passport and she says, your passport is no good. The visa is expired. You understand? And I'm like, yes, I know. How do I pay the money? How do I pay the money to get through the gate? And they send over this woman, and she, she's like a pretty young, like Slavic girl, but she's dressed in this uniform. And it's shocking that it was like the actual Ukrainian like immigration authority military uniform, because she looks like she was wearing like a Soviet uniform. It was like really brown and understated with some color features to it, pretty much exactly like a Soviet uniform if you imagine that in your head. She takes me aside. She says, "You've overstayed by over a year. This is a 90-day tourist visa." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. How do I give you the money to get through the gate?" And she says, "Well, you can't. You have to go to a Ukrainian bank and you have to make a deposit." And she gave me like this very weird specific routing information for making this payment. And she says, "Don't you have friends?" I'm like, "No, my friends left. That's why I'm also leaving." She's like, "Okay, well, do you have a place to stay?" I'm like, "No, because I'm moving out. I gave my keys up already. I don't have a place to stay." So she's looking at me. I must look like a corpse at this point because I've been up for so long. And I'm thinking, I'm fucked. This is fucked. This is screwed. There's no way I'm getting through this gate in 20 minutes to get on this plane that ends boarding in 10. She comes back, she takes my boarding pass, she stamps it like 3 times. Probably, it's like, "Don't let him in," each stamp. And then she gives it to me. She gives me my passport, and she sends me through to the exit where the planes are. I'm thinking, this is weird. And I mean, I throw my shit in the corner and I look at my boarding pass, and I'm just like, I can't fucking believe it that I got through that line, that horrible line, and I can't go through because they're not going to let me just pay my fine. I have $100 in cash. Just let me give you $100, and that'll be enough to cover this fine. And I look at it. She has literally written the word "go" on my boarding pass, and I'm like, what the fuck? What does this mean? And I don't know if that's like her initials or something, like she signed it, like the stamps, or if she was literally telling me to go. But just seeing the word "go" on my boarding pass inspired me to try being sneaky. I go up to the gate, which is last call, and I give him my pass, and the Romanian woman at the thing just tears it, gives me my thing, and says, "Go now, last call," and she just like sends me out. And I get on the bus, and I'm like, I don't know if that was legal. I don't know if I was supposed to do that. But I'm on the bus now. So I get on the plane and I fall asleep. And because I'm smart. See, I plan the best I can. Despite what horrible misadventure life throws at me, I plan ahead. And I, with infinite foresight, spent the additional $10 to get the emergency exit seat that did not have another seat in front of it, which means I had infinite leg room. And I slept very well for about 2 hours. But I get off the plane and I get into the airport for the connecting flight. And at this point, I realize I only have one boarding pass, and I forgot to mention this. But when I checked in my baggage, the Ukrainian representative for the airliner said that once I got, because it was so delayed, once I got to the airport, I would have to exit the secure zone, grab my baggage, and then return to the airport to find my next flight, because they don't know what the next flight is. I enter into the connecting flight, which is in a European country, and the guy said, I tell him what the representative in Ukraine told me, and he said, "No, that's wrong. Go through passport control, and then look around at the boarding thing." So I do that. I go through, and the guy at the counter, asks me like the usual questions, and I'm just waiting for him to go. Like, no, obviously, you can't come into Europe. Are you like a retard? What? Why are you wasting your time with this pathetic? Obviously, you're not allowed into Europe. But he didn't ask me that. So thankfully, I'm not as important as I think I am, for once. And I go through, and then I ask the guy, I was like, look, this is where I'm going. What's the next flight? And he says, oh, there's a last call for a flight like that on this gate. So I run to this thing, which is on last call already. As soon as I get through the security, last call, and I see the line, I get in the line, and I think, oh, thank God. I made it. I'm on the line already. They're going to process the line, and if it's last call, it's last call. And then I realize there are two gates at this terminal. There's gate, whatever, A1 and A2. And I'm looking at the board because I saw my flight that I was supposed to go to on the screen. And I'm looking at it, and the one that I was supposed to go to is no longer there. I'm thinking, oh, I got in the wrong line, and they flew off without me. That's what happened. So I go up to the and I'm thinking they're not even going to let me on because I don't have a boarding pass. How the fuck would they let me onto a plane that I don't have a boarding pass for? But apparently they would have. Apparently they would have allowed me on this plane that was taken off as soon as I got there with no boarding pass. If I had just gotten to the right line, but no, I was a sleepy boy. And I was groggy. I was both groggy and extremely exhausted at the same time. So I find the desk, and at this point I look like I am 1 second away. One bad piece of information piercing my skull before I just topple over and die on the spot. They comp me the taxi to and from the hotel room itself. And then like a bunch of vouchers for food and stuff. They gave me the works. And on one hand, they really tried to make this right. I feel the airliner did, which is why I'm not just shitting on them right now. But on the other hand, their primary job is to give me the information to get to my destination on time, and they did not once email me at any stage. They did not text me. I gave them my phone number and everything. I had access to my Google Voice and everything. They got me no text messages, no emails, and I feel like if I had gotten off the plane and had an email that said, oh, by the way, your new connecting flight is boarding right now, immediately run to this gate, I might have been more focused and might have found it. But that was not the case, and I missed it. I mean, on one hand, I can't blame them for that, but on the other hand, I can very easily blame them for that because that was probably the worst day of my life. Anyways, I sleep at this hotel, and I'm thinking, okay, whatever. I missed it. Very sad. I really wanted to get there on time, and I sleep. I sleep precisely 8 hours because my next flight's like at 5 a.m. or something. So I take a shower. I'm very smart again. I had a spare clothes in my bag, so I just changed. If you travel, always carry at least like spare underwear and stuff with you in case something happens. So my sweaty, dirty, disgusting, horrible, soaked through underwear and shirt, I could just put into a bag and hide, and wear these fresh, clean clothes with me in the morning. So I get up, I go downstairs, and I say, hello. I need my cab. And I show them my voucher. Very proudly, I show them my voucher. And they go, you did not tell us that you needed this cab at this time when you checked in. Like, what do you mean I had to tell you? I was like, you had to tell us. There's not going to be any cab at 4 in the fucking morning, you retard. You had to tell us so that we could call the company and schedule the cab to the airport for you at 4 in the fucking morning. And I'm thinking like, oh, that's no problem. I'll just call up an Uber. And I pull out my phone and it says Uber is not available in your region. And that's when I learned that in European countries, there are minimum wages and Uber is not allowed there because their contracts violate labor laws. And there are not 1,000 Ukrainian cab drivers on fucking speed all over the place who will drive you to your destination for $2.50. And that was a culture shock for me. That was like, I'm waking up in the dark zone. There's no hope for me in this abyss of unions and labor laws. It was one of the most appalling, shocking, and terrifying moments of my entire life. But the guy was like, "Oh, by the way, the guy outside did come through with a voucher, probably the same exact flight itinerary that I had, did tell us to book us the cab at this time, and he's right there right now. Maybe he'll let you ride with him." So I fucking like see ya and haul ass out of the hotel, and I'm like, "Hey, are you going to the airport?" And he's like, "Yes," and I'm like, "Can I go with you?" "Sure." And that is the story of how a guardian angel in front of my hotel saved my ass from missing a flight a second time. When they gave me everything, they gave me a paper. She laid out the woman at the counter laid out in explicit detail. This voucher, when you go outside, you find this cab, you give them this voucher. You go to the hotel, you give them this voucher. You show them the other voucher at the same time, and you make sure that they know to call this cab. And then I've also comped you free breakfast, so make sure that you tell them that you want that breakfast to go. And like she outlined it like perfectly in explicit detail in a way that a child could understand, and I fucked it up, and it is only because of a guardian Slav at the front of this airport that I was able to make this flight. So I'm there, and everything goes well from there on. everything was fine after that point. I was catching up on The Biggest Problem in the Universe, because I had never heard the entire series. I'm on like episode 56 now. I remember I was right next to this old lady in my seat, and there was a part where Maddox is talking about how he really wanted to bang a pregnant woman because it would be like a 2-for-1 deal. And Dick was like, you can't say that. You can't say that in honesty, because that's disgusting. How do you not see that this is a terrible mistake? You are mid-sentence in a car accident, and you should abort the sentiment immediately. And he just keeps going. He just keeps going on with this thought. And I'm like crying, laughing, and I trying not to disturb this poor old woman who's reading like a physical newspaper in her lap as I'm listening to this cacophony of horrible nonsense. But then I landed, and I was really scared that there would be like a second passport control like in my destination, but there wasn't, which is that's a plus for the EU, I guess. Is that once you get in, take a flight to any EU country that doesn't give a shit, and then you can fly to the ones that might give a shit, and you'll be fine. So that's traveling with me. I hope it has been of value to you. I hope you can integrate my experience into your life in some meaningful way, and not be completely fucked when you go to from strange countries that you are not legally allowed to be in at the time that you're leaving. Not really great advice. Oh yeah, and if you have a federal attorney, don't forget to get them to email me. My email address is josh@jw.sh. Thank you. Wow, that was only 30 minutes. It felt like a lot longer. Okay. Yes. Okay, I will talk about it. The big happening. The good news. Fortunately, I did not receive any negative news that would kill me upon arrival, because the good news that I got was that Jonathan. Oh, I can't say that on YouTube. Forget I said that. Subtract the last 5 seconds from your memory. The beautiful Miss BC, Jessica Yanev, has lost their case. Why is this awful? Transform, fit the screen. I'm broadcasting this right now. You might have noticed that I'm broadcasting at 720p instead of my regular resolution, because my internet connection is terrible, and I can't do 1080p. Whatever. Okay, so everyone has definitely heard about this, but again, I like to re-explain current situations for people who will be listening in the future, and in the dark times of 2024, where all past media has been eradicated to contain knowledge that Donald Trump was once our president. They will completely burn the archives. Yaniv is a trans person in British Columbia in Canada who one day made the decision that they were going to have their feminine balls waxed by a beautician, an esthetician or whatever in British Columbia. They were turned down like 16 times because Yaniv would specifically seek out female estheticians who do female Brazilians. And the anatomy for a man and a woman, despite claims to the contrary, are very different. And the procedure for estheticians to do a Brazilian is completely different for men and women. He takes them to a human rights tribunal. Now, this is an important thing to mention because people don't seem to understand that a human rights tribunal is not a lawsuit. He is not suing them for discrimination. He has complained to the government that his basic human rights have been fundamentally violated by these companies, and they should be punished for their discriminatory practices. It is not a lawsuit. He is a witness for his own claims, mediated by the government. It's a lot scarier than a lawsuit because it is... Yaniv theoretically wouldn't lose nothing. He could bring up as many complaints as he wanted to, and they would have to defend themselves no matter how spurious the complaints were. Many women completely just bailed. One had Yaniv as their first customer and were so frustrated by the experience they immediately closed their practice. They were going to take it up as like a side business, and then just completely gave up because they were so traumatized by Yaniv. But 3 of them did stand up, and they've been going through the process with representation that Yaniv didn't have to provide because they're doing it pro se, or I don't even know if they need a lawyer, if they're just filing complaints in this bullshit tertiary committee or whatever it is. And at the end of it, they threw it out. They just threw it out on Tuesday, on October 22nd, and they have been ordered to pay 2,000 Canadian dollars to each of the 3 defendants for 6,000 Canadian dollars in total. Let's just check up what that is in current USD. 2,000 CAD to USD. $1,500. So he's essentially ruined their lives. He's rung them through, the system for months and months and months, humiliating them, making racist tirades against them on Facebook about their immigration status. And the total value of that damage is about is about 15 years in Ukraine per person. I feel that's a fair comparison to make. So utter bullshit in terms of actual dishing out the punishment. But I mean, I'm just glad that they didn't rule that women have to wax someone's balls. I feel that is the bar currently set for Canada. Maybe some people would disagree, but I don't think even Canadians would disagree with me at this point. I don't think Yaniv has said anything about this since it's happened. So I don't know. Hopefully he'll talk to me. I need to get Yaniv to talk to me. I extended an offer, and he never responded. So I guess my offer is no good. He did respond. He responded the first time and then said sure. And then after that, released a statement saying he won't do any more podcasts or interviews, and then canceled mine. So thanks a lot, asshole. I just wanted to chat. Oh, here's the really funny thing, by the way, regarding this. I mentioned that he did racist tirades about the people and their immigration status. There is a very specific part that, let me find this real quick. That guy has lots of quotes that are good. But there was specifically one quote that was just this one. This is from the tribunal's final verdict, I guess. I don't know what you would call it. Miss Yaniv then asked whether Miss Benapal would provide the service while she was on her period, pressing her to agree to work around the string of a tampon While I found her to be evasive on the issue, Miss Yanov acknowledged that she was not menstruating and would not have required Miss Benapal to work around a tampon. Rather, she testified that the purpose of asking this question was to test Miss Benapal's professionalism and to see if this was a legitimate business. I do not accept that explanation. If Miss Yanov were genuinely curious about the legitimacy of Miss Benapal's business, she could have asked questions related to training, licensing, facilities, or other matters relevant to the business. At this point, she had already been refused service and was using deception to gather more information for some other purpose. In an unrelated Facebook post, Miss Yanov publicly said, "The funniest thing is asking an immigrant for a tampon. They freak out, LOL, and in brackets, crying/laughing emoji, in brackets," end quote. That is from a court document. In my view, the most likely scenario is that Miss Yanov was trying to make Miss Benapal feel uncomfortable or awkward for her own amusement or as some form of revenge. This is consistent with Miss Yanov's behavior in relation to all other respondents. It makes me wonder if the only reason that Canada came to this conclusion is that there is a overt, transparent, or non-transparent, opaque element of racism and xenophobia in how Yanov acts on Facebook, which is very strange because Yanov himself is a second generation Israeli immigrant to the point where his mother doesn't speak English comprehensibly sometimes. It does make me think, because what happens if it was less clear cut? Like, anyone looking at this for any point, any length of time would immediately realize that Yanov is a freak. But if they did not have that excuse of saying that they are racist and xenophobic, would the tribunal have felt confident enough to proceed with not only ruling in favor of the respondents, but fining Yanov at all? And I don't really think they would have. I think maybe they. If it wasn't for the racism and the xenophobia, I would say that it's probably 50-50 that they would make the statement, the claim, the ruling, the legally binding order that yes, you must wax them balls, even if it goes against your religion. So I don't know. I have no faith in Canada. Oh, they had an election, by the way. This ruling came one day after the one day after the Canadian election, where the Liberal Party became a minority in the government and the Conservative Party gained a lot more votes. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but I think it's worth bringing up that they just had their election like right before this ruling came out. So who knows? Though now I've heard, I don't know. I've been in a coma for the last few days. Last I heard regarding that election is that for some reason, like, the Conservative Party got many, like 10% more votes. Like, it was a huge number of votes that leaned towards the Conservative Party. But for some reason, because of how the congressional blocking is done, the representation is done in Canada, they won more seats just because the votes fell more favorably to liberals in certain areas, kind of like the delegate system in the U.S., but with Congress. And I mean, since the Parliament is their voting system for determining prime minister, like Canada, the way they do their prime ministers is that it's like if Congress voted on the president instead of the people, which is probably the most horrific thing I can think of. I can't think of a worse system than letting Congress decide, because we would get like President. God, who's the Democrat leader in Congress right now? Nancy Pelosi. We'd get President Nancy Pelosi. We'd definitely have gotten President Clinton if Congress voted for that stuff. That would be a living nightmare. And I guess Canada. To get back to Canada, they live in that eternal nightmare where Justin Trudeau will be the president forever because the Liberals cannot be ousted from government. So apparently someone else is the prime minister. I don't know how it works. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Just get ready. If you're an esthetician, eventually they're gonna overturn this decision, and you'll have to wax some balls. Just you might as well get the practice in right now. Like, don't just specialize in women's Brazilians anymore. You have to also become an expert in unisex Brazilian waxing, so that when the day comes and the balls present themselves to you, you'll know what to do. Oh, I'm glad I thought of this. This is not bullshit. Let me find this. Anything you have to prefix by saying this is not bullshit is most likely bullshit. But I promise you that this is not. Somebody sent me this in the email. I'm definitely not living in China. I don't have this newspaper because I live in China. It's just something that I found. Oh fuck, that's huge. That's for fit the screen. Oh, please don't make me resize this manually. I'll cry. Oh, I'm breaking things. Hold up. I'm breaking things. Okay, there we go. And now set this to the side again. Oh, perfect. Okay, this is, for those of you who cannot bear your eyes on this, this is a newspaper, Sing Tag Daily, for the 23rd of October, and featured prominently as in Canadian news, the Canadian news section of the Sing Tag Daily is Jonathan Yanev. Let me pull up the description that the person who sent it to me says. The title is apparently "Refused to remove hair on male private. Transgender person lost lawsuit." And the subheadline is "Self-identified woman." And apparently the way that it translates is woman is sarcastic. It is presented in a sarcastic light. So, oh look, they even translate I see the $2,000, but it's represented as yuan, as the renminbi. I wonder if they just automatically consider the Chinese or the Canadian currency as Chinese at this point, because that's what it looks like. That's how it reads to me. I also, what I really love, and this is, if I did not know better, I would assume that there is a Chinese agent working for the Communist Party, for the government, whose job it is to make me more sympathetic to China. And they've sent me this just to be like, hey, look at how hip we are into the Western depravity. You should really like China. It's, oh God, I can't zoom in on it. On the left-hand side of the newspaper, there is half a picture of Greta Thunberg, angry, snarling into a microphone, and it's literally like this newspaper was written specifically to court me as a Chinese loyalist, because that is funny. That's really funny. You know they're making fun of her too. That picture, that image selection that they've used is hysterical. Like her brows are furrowed, she's looking off into the distance, her face is pinkened, and her teeth are bared, her fangs are bared at the UN microphone. She's ready to jump across and shout at them, how dare you, you've stolen my life. And I'm sure I can't read the Chinaman scribbles underneath that, but I'm pretty sure it's something like, this idiot moron child who has no business in politics has somehow escaped her country of Sweden and is now in the UN trying to tell us to not burn as much coal. And we, the people of China, laugh at her pretensions as she is an idiot child. And on page 2, we have this man in drag who is suing women for not waxing his balls. And this is what's happening outside of China, so you definitely should remain loyal to the party. If I was the editor for the newspaper, that's exactly what I would write, and I'd probably be paid extra money by the government for my good service to the party. My credit score would be fantastic. It would be much higher than my my actual credit score. I think that's it. That's all I got. I didn't have much time to prepare for this. Obviously, I'm streaming on Thursday because I have been subjugated to hell. I've only just escaped my prison cell in my new home of Arlington, where I've been hit with radiation to make me glow in the dark, as my canary has abandoned me, forsaken me in these dire times. Yeah, 45 minutes. I don't know. What else has happened? Oh, the 7-year-old. That's depressing though. I don't want to talk about that. From what I don't even have like clippings for this. I didn't want to talk about it. There was it was in Dallas, Texas too. This wasn't like in California. This wasn't in San Diego or San Francisco. This was in Texas, where a like she was like half black, half Latino. A half black, half Latino judge decided that a 7-year-old is to be put on hormone blockers against the will of the father because they identify as a woman. And this is entirely because the wife has sculpted the child to be like this. I don't remember exactly what the wording was, but the father basically said that from a young age, the mother encouraged the son to play with dresses and play with girls' toys and to identify as a woman. Like, she literally dressed him up in drag and stuff to try and force this on him. That's what I get for having my email open. It happens every time. So, I don't know. I hope it'll get overturned, because if not, I mean, what do you say? Oh, okay, we're literally castrating children because psychotic codependent mothers are dressing their children up in drag, and there's nothing that normal, reasonable people can do anymore. we're past the event horizon if that's the case. You're not going to be able to escape the black hole if we're literally castrating children now. Yeah, no, the thing is, I'm wholly against any sort of young age transition. Like, if you're an adult, do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. It is impossible for me to adequately care about what you do with your body. If you wanna literally cut off your hands and feet and crawl around on the ground on all fours like some kind of weird dog person, go for it. Whatever. But if you're 7, you can't make those kinds of decisions. And when you take, it's not even like, oh, we can just reverse it later. There's another trans person who is a YouTuber. I want to say it's Blair White, but I don't think it is Blair White in this instance. If you take hormone blockers, the Texas governor has announced intervention. Well, what can he do? He can't interfere with the court system. I mean, is the governor literally going to take his shotgun and go down to the court and threaten to kill people if they don't release the boy? That would be awesome. I'd be for that. I would be all about that, but I don't think it's going to happen. What I was going to say is that if you get hormone blocker that early, your penis never develops. You have a infant's penis for the rest of your life, and nothing will trigger that to grow once you break your hormonal balance. So this kid, like, there's the reason why I brought up Blair is because there is some trans YouTuber who is really big, and their official reason for why they can't get sexual reassignment surgery is that they took hormone blockers too early, and literally do not have enough penis left to create a new vagina. They just don't have that biomaterial available to them because of the hormone blockers. So, I mean, even with like trans people, like there are guys out there who are legitimately attracted to traps and trannies and Thai lady boys and all that stuff. I can't imagine when you refine that group of people, which is already little, to people who are into that but also like infant penises, like that's a narrow group of people. You're completely depriving these kids of any hope of having a healthy sex life in the future. It is a complete travesty. I don't know how anyone can side with it. It's such a bizarre, like, my mind is literally incapable of I can empathize with lots of people. I can empathize with the Chinese government. Nobody else can do that except me, apparently. I can't empathize with people who think that this is okay. It defies all belief. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I wish the Texas guy, the governor, luck, but really, what can you do? What can you do when everyone has lost their mind and we try to ruin children now? Jazz Jennings, thank you. That's the name. There was a There's a serial killer documentary that I watched recently, and it was about the Russian guy who like killed 50 people, and throughout the entire documentary, they kept re-saying how he was impotent. His penis never worked. He had to inseminate his wife by jerking off into a cup and then like pouring it into her. And it was just like he kept hammering home that he was impotent. He was impotent. His dick don't work. His dick don't work. He was attractive, but he was impotent. He couldn't get a normal wife because he was impotent, and he felt impotent, and he was impotent. And they just kept calling him impotent over and over again. And then in his final moments in the defendant's box in Soviet Russia, he's saying, "I'm impotent and I'm crazy," and he literally took his pants off to show the judge his penis at some point. But his killings were gruesome and horrible and awful and really disgusting. And from the descriptions, the only reason why he did them is because he was so impotent that he needed to feel control over people. And he could spontaneously ejaculate while murdering. And it was the only time where he could come because he couldn't have sex normally. I'm thinking, you know what? We're going to get a lot more serial killers in the future. You're going to have all that kid in Texas right now, that's a serial killer. That kid starts killing dogs or something, that's a problem. He's gonna yeah, you better watch him. You better put that guy in a database, because that's some, you got the absentee father, the overbearing mother, and the impotence. It's all the ducks are in a row for a new generation of horrific, mentally sabotaged young people to become mass murderers. And not in the neo mass murderer way, like the serial killer kind of way. He was Ukrainian. You're right. Oh, he was loyal to the Soviets, and his history was screwed up. Like he had a legitimately traumatic childhood. Desmond is homicidal. Oh, that's funny. If he kills his mom, I can't talk about this on YouTube. I'll get banned. If he kills his mom, it's gonna be like a Jason Voorhees thing. My head's going in a fridge. He's gonna put on his dresses and stuff, and then like open the fridge door and do the goodbye horses dance in front of his mom's decapitated head, and be like, "Look, Mom, I'm finally as pretty as you wanted me to be, wearing this skin." Oh well, I guess I should call it quits there before I get banned. Anything else? Last call, like my boarding, every time I got near an airplane, it's last call. Desmond's already hanging out with a convicted murderer. Yeah. I think that's it. Let's see. Get some vodka and watch The Joker. I need to watch that movie. I'm like the only person who hasn't watched that movie yet. I feel left out. Apparently, it's actually pretty good, despite all the bad Batman stuff that's shoehorned in. What started the transgender stuff? I can't say. I mean, I have some thoughts, but I dare not say. I don't know. It really does seem like there is a active effort by people to stop like normal, healthy families and procreation. Like everyone's trans, everyone's gay, and those are the things that people promote as being like virtues now, and it's extremely strange. Oh, chat! I don't need to say things that you already know the answer to. So, all right. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I think that's all I got. Thank you for sticking with me on this very strange Thursday stream, but I don't know. It feels good to complain. This is my therapy. I have to yell at people on the internet for an hour every week, or my court appointed attorney is gonna fail me and I'm gonna have to go back to jail. So thank you, my friends, and I'll see you next week. And next week is Halloween, and I promise, I don't care what it takes, I will do a Halloween stream on a deceased locale. So I promise. You can kill me if I'm lying, but I promise. All right. See you then.
If you catch me at the border, I got visas in my name. If you come around here, I'll make them all day. I get one down in a second if you wait. I fly like paper, get high like planes. If you catch me at the border, I got visas in my name. If you come around here, I'll make them all day. I get one down in a second if you wait. Sometimes I think sitting on trains. Every step I get to, I'm clocking that game. Everyone's a winner, we're making our fame. Bonafide hustler, making my name. Sometimes I think sitting on trains. Every step I get to, I'm clocking that game. Everyone's a winner, we're making our fame. Bonafide hustler, making my name. All I wanna do is change your money. 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 Pirates, skulls and bones, sticks and stones and weed and bombs. Running when we hit lethal poison for the system. Pirates, skulls and bones, sticks and stones and weed and bombs. Running when we hit lethal poison for the system. No one on the corner has swagger like us. Hit me on my banner, prepaid wireless. We pack and deliver like UPS trucks. Already going hell, just pumping that gas. No one on the corner has swagger like us. Hit me on my banner, prepaid wireless. We pack and deliver like UPS trucks. Already going hell, just pumping that gas. All I wanna do is change your money. 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 MIA, third world democracy. Yeah, I got more records in the KGB. So, no funny business. You already are.